Welcome to the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Championship. You join me here on the beautiful countryside of Cheshire at Oulton Park. Now we have Michael Nibbs here on pole position. Michael's first season in the BRSCC Mazda Championship. Michael, how are you finding this first championship?
Really good fun. Yeah, I'm doing really well, having good fun.
Now the weather's hotting up for you. Are you looking forward to the race?
Yeah, really looking forward to it. Racing with some cracking guys, and we're going to have some fun.
And you're a bit worried about the competition coming up behind you?
Definitely. It's going to be tricky and it's going to be hard, but I'm going to give it the best shot.
Awesome. Well, best of luck, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, as we head now into the race, Andy, over to you.
Thanks, Mike. Well, the cars lining up on the grid then, and here is the order in which they'll take the start, with Michael Nibbs and Christopher Ginn on the front row together, Charlie Rawls and Jack Wilmot row 2, ahead of Scott Leach and Alan Hawkins. Then it's Ollie Jenkins and Nick Ledoyen, Richard Bartlett and Graham Rumsey, with Elliot Hann and Ivan Leary. Then Sam Jarvis and Richard Wotton on row number 7, row 8 for Chris Malloy and Tom Mallett. Then rounding out the top 20 are Ashley Heath, Adrian Burge, Neil Coggan and Ian Whitick. Then it's Thomas Jenkins and Jonathan Fieldsend. Pete Lancaster and Dale Whiteman are towards the back of the grid, whilst the back row itself is occupied solely by Dave Turton. So Group B then is for the bottom half of the order after qualifying, basically, so the slowest 25 cars in qualifying occupy the B grid. The top 5 finishers in this race will be promoted to the A race for race number 2, so that's what it's all about really for the drivers now. Red lights come on then, we're about to go racing for the first time here with race 1B. Away we go. Michael Nibbs, the yellow car from the inside of row 1, gets a decent start, but Charlie Rawls appears to have got away better from row number 2. Silver and green car, but no, it will be Nibbs that leads the way. Rawls is second, slipping backwards is Christopher Ginn though from the outside of row number 1. Not a brilliant start for him. Wald Hall, a couple of them running a bit wide. Oh, and there's a bit of contact. One car goes spinning towards the barriers, and is it going to stop in time? Oh, just about. I think that's number 56 that's gone around, which means that was one of the cars from further back, Thomas Jenkins from 21st on the grid, who thankfully appears to have got away without too much damage there, but unfortunately the real damage has been done to his prospects of a good result. He'll be right at the back of the field now. So the field then, the rest of them at least, go through Island Bend for the first time after a lively start. I think, in fairness, Thomas Jenkins was about the only car that ran wide onto the grass, but everyone else keeping it fairly clean for the time being. Up through the Shell hairpin they go then. Really, really close stuff here. There's Alan Hawkins in the 722 car. Christopher Ginn there, number 20, started on second on the grid, and he's dropped down now towards the back of the top 10 already. And this is getting very, very congested indeed from about third or fourth place back. But the top 2 is this, pulling away Michael Nibbs and Charlie Rawls through the Hislop chicane then. Hearing that Charlie, though, is under investigation for a jump start, as off goes Nick Ledoyen down at the chicane, and also running a bit wide there, number 25, Ivan Leary. So Ivan Leary getting a bit leery as they went through the Hislop chicane. Nick Ledoyen has to stop and then continue. You can't just drive straight onto the track, you have to come to a complete standstill, then continue if you skip that chicane. Realistically, that's not particularly what they're concerned about here, I don't think. They'll be looking to try and just make sure they're in a transfer spot, get into that A race later on. Oh, and there's a car slowing there. Now, that wasn't one of the leaders, was it? I think that was a car going a lap down, maybe Neil Coggan, who I believe was close to going a lap down not that long ago. That was a breathtaking moment in a way for this third place squabble as they tried to negotiate him all of a sudden, not expecting to see a slow car in their way. Through Druids then, there's Ivan Leary. The tail of Ollie Jenkins now. Oh, and Dave Turton's in the pit lane, so that's a shame for Dave, who was a part of that 5th place battle earlier on. Leaders, though, come through onto the final lap of the race, and Charlie Rawls is still ahead of Michael Nibbs, but we're hearing is now being given a 10-second jump start penalty. So Charlie Rawls, unfortunately, may be leading the race, but Michael Nibbs, well, he actually wants to win this on the road anyway. These two will be blissfully unaware of that penalty, I'd imagine, at this stage. So Michael Nibbs, despite the fact that, again, they're both well clear of anybody else, they are about 16, 17 seconds clear of the third place battle. And despite the fact that actually they're going to finish first and second anyway with Nibbs ahead, unless there's a problem for Nibbs on this final lap, they're still going to keep the race going, which is good for us. To Shell, Nibbs to the outside at the Shell hairpin. Now he can go right round the outside here. The banking allows you to carry the speed off the corner. He's on the grass, keeps his foot in it though. Michael Nibbs trying everything to get past Charlie Rawls here. into the Britain chicane. He'll have the inside line for the left-hander, but Charlie will have the inside for the right. It doesn't matter though, because Nibs has gone through already. And Michael Nibs then, on the last lap of the race, has taken the lead away. But he was essentially in the lead anyway with that 10-second penalty applied for rules. But it's always nice to see that regardless of penalties, the drivers still give it a good race. Nibs didn't need to take that risk there. Oh, and he doesn't need that to happen either. Rawls locks up and gets into the back of him, ends up on the grass, and well, that was the final opportunity, I think, for Charlie Rawls to at least reclaim the victory on the road, but that very nearly went wrong. There he goes then, over the crest, underneath the bridge. Look at the gap now that's opened up between the two of them, well over a second. So for Nibs, it's going to work out, but that was a pretty entertaining final lap there between the two of them. Through Druids, double apex right-hander. Rawls will be frustrated with this, but he will still finish second, I think, because they are so far ahead of the chasing pack. I'm pretty sure it's more than 10 seconds between second and third. It's getting on for about 15 probably, so shouldn't be an issue here for Charlie. He'll still come home in second place. He's sideways out of the last corner, but Michael Nibs is going to take the race victory on the final lap of the race. He takes the win in race 1B. Charlie Rawls is in second place. And then we wait for anybody else to appear. There they are. And third place will be Adrian Burge. He did get past Alan Hawkins then on the final lap. So Burge third, Hawkins fourth, and Ollie Jenkins gets ahead of Scott Leach on the final lap too. So Leach drops out of a transfer spot. That was a shame for Scott. He ends up finishing in the end behind Ivan Leary, so 7th place for Scott Leach. Not a good end to what had been a really good race until that point. So it's Nibs with the win, Rawls second, Burge third, and Hawkins fourth, with Jenkins joining them in the A race later on. Then it's Ivan Leary who misses out by one position, ahead of Scott Leach, Richard Wootton, Nick Ledoyen, and Pete Lancaster. Then it was Elliot Han and Jonathan Fieldsend, Graham Rumsey and Ian Whitick, with Sam Jarvis in 15th place. We lost, unfortunately, Dave Turton to the pit lane. Tom Mallet and Jack Wilmot were non-finishers, so too Thomas Jenkins on lap 1, whilst Christopher Ginn and Ashley Heath were disqualified by the clerk of the course for a driving standards infringement post-race.
Pull to flag, that was a good race for you.
Yeah, it was. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a lot harder than I actually anticipated, but it was good.
So were you aware that Charlie had a penalty?
I was, actually, yeah, but still, I needed to win.
Race 2B of the BRSCC Mazda Championship. We've got Will Hayden behind me here, who's normally in the A races, however, seems to be down here in the Bs. Will, what seems to be going wrong?
The engine just isn't getting any power, unfortunately, so I'm just powering through. Hopefully, can get a podium in this race, but yeah, just going to have to deal with what I've got at the moment, and then at the end of this weekend, we'll get it all fixed and ready for Donington.
So you're hoping to have the widest MX-5 in the championship?
Hopefully, yeah. We'll have to wait and see if it's going to go, but yeah, definitely.
Well, best of luck.
Cheers,
have a good one. Andy, over to you to see how this turns out for him.
Thanks, Mike. Well, Will Hayden then, with a lack of power, may struggle to stay at the front of the grid, but we'll see if he can. Tim Dorr will be alongside him, with Stuart Ross French and Bruce Robinson up there too. Matt Luff and Ivan Leary are next, then Scott Leach and Richard Wootton, whilst Nick Ledoyen and Pete Lancaster round out the top 10. Then it's Elliot Han, Jonathan Fieldsend, Graham Rumsey looking to recover from that moment he had in race 1, ahead of Ian Whitick, then Sam Jarvis and Chris Malloy, Dale Whiteman and Richard Bartlett, and then Neil Coggan. Then we get into the retirements and disqualifications from race 1. Dave Turton, Tom Mallet, Jack Wilmot, Tom Jenkins and Christopher Ginn, with Ashley Heath right at the back, looking to try and make some progress. So Will Hayden then on the pole position. Have they got that car fixed? And if they haven't, will he maybe be able to stay up there anyway, because he's a very rapid young peddler. Let's see what happens then. The red lights are on. We're ready to go racing here. Race 2B bursts into life at Oulton Park. The field makes its way towards Old Hall Corner for the first time, and a good start made from the inside of row number 2 there by the looks of it. That is the the number 90 car coming through, Bruce Robinson. Robinson had a really good start then, and he will take the lead into Old Hall Corner for the first time. Lots of cars out wide though, and Bruce Robinson might even lose the lead here to Will Hayden. Well, Hayden's car doesn't seem to be lacking straight line speed there, does it? He's managed to pull right alongside and reclaim the lead on the run to Cascades for the first time. So maybe they have got the car fixed, or maybe it's just one of those things that comes and goes. But either way, he was able to drive past Bruce Robinson there, and I'm pretty sure he got the lead back with Ashley Heath, meanwhile, who started right at the back of the grid after a disqualification for a driving standards infringement in race number 1. And he is already starting to make progress through the field, as you would expect, really. Ooh, off wide, there's another car on the grass in front of us, one of the AB Motorsport cars, I think that is. rattling its way back onto the circuit, so more places gained there for Ashley Heath, but will he be able to get high enough up the order to challenge for a top 10 or maybe even a top 5 transfer spot? That's the question, really. There's number 68 going through now, so Ashley already gaining some ground, but a lot more cars in front of him yet to be overtaken. Over the curbs they go then. Will Hayden leading the way, Bruce Robinson second, Ivan Leary's into third, he's had a good start from 6th on the grid. Scott Leach likewise was 7th on the grid, he's 4th now. Then it's the 173 of Stuart French, then Richard Wootton and number 72, which is Matt Luff, who had that lurid spin on the in the early stages of race number 1B, which rather hurt his chances of getting a promotional spot, which arguably he probably could have got had he not had the spin. The field then make their way up to the top of the hill. Green and yellow car there was Tim Dorr. That's Stuart Ross French trying to fend off Ivan Leary. So Leary has suddenly dropped down the order then on the run up the hill. So he's had a moment somewhere. Scott Leach has gone through, so has Stuart French, and now Richard Wootton tries to get alongside. To the inside then, that's covered by Leary, so he goes to the outside instead. Matt Luff, the 72 car, might be able to take advantage of this if he reads the situation right, and he's going to get a better exit from Lodge Corner than both of them. They could be 3 abreast here to the start-finish line. They almost are over the crest, but Wootton, I think, will go ahead of both of them. Then Leary and Luff will debate 5th position as they, 6th position, excuse me, as they go into Oulton Corner, and Luff makes it dive up the inside. It was a nice move, and he made it work. Coming through behind, there's number 53. Scott Leach then, with Matt Luff breathing down his neck. Stuart French now a bit lonely in 4th. Meanwhile, Will Hayden is extremely lonely because he's about 15 seconds ahead of anybody else as he turns into Lodge Corner. The Motorsport squad have given him a fantastic car. He's driven it well, and it doesn't seem to be down on power to me. Best lap of a 2 minutes 7.7 is quite comfortably quicker than anyone else has been in this race, or indeed the previous B race. So Will, showing the rest of the field a clean pair of heels, is now onto his final lap of the 2.69 mile Oulton Park International Circuit. This is what 15 seconds looks like, by the way. And there finally is our second place squabble, Scott Leach and Matt Luff, with Stuart French keeping a watching brief in 4th. Ball down the avenue towards Cascades once again. Bruce Robinson we're on board with in that 5th place. This is the battle really for the promotion spot. Richard Wootton again a bit sideways into Cascades. He's not happy through that corner, is he, at the moment? That just costs him exit speed a little bit. He'll be in the slipstream now though, so that will bring him back onto the tail of Bruce Robinson, but whatever Richard's doing through Cascades, he probably needs to stop. And actually Dave Turton in 7th position now. He's got himself ahead of Tim Dorr, and he's starting to catch them slightly. Matt Luff is into 2nd place now as well, ahead of Scott Leach, and that could have been a perfectly timed manoeuvre. We are on that final lap. Leach, though, is trying to fight back at him. Can't pull alongside, though, between Shell and Britons. Didn't have enough impetus, couldn't quite get there. Hayden then into Hislops. And turns his way out of the right-hander up to Clay Hill for the final time. AB Motorsport have won a few of these B races this year. Will Hayden has been at the front in quite a few of them. It's not the kind of race win that he would like, I'm sure, but still it is a win, and he did it in pretty commanding style from the front of the grid. Never headed really, led into the first corner, never looked back, and now he's only 1 corner away from the race victory in race 2B. Onto the brakes, into the right-hander, through the dip, over the crest again, and then the world just drops away below your feet, and a big tail slide to finish with a flourish for Will Hayden. He comes to the start-finish line and wins race 2B in emphatic style here at Oulton Park. Nice drive that from Will, and let's hope that means that the car is now working as it should do. Now, who will be second? It was Matt Luff last time we saw them, and is it still going to be Matt? Yes, it is, just ahead of Scott Leach and Stuart French. And then what about 5th place? Is it Robinson? Yes, it is, and look at that for 6th place. It's going to be side by side between Richard Wootton and Dave Turton. Wootton gets it. Turton was denied by less than a tenth of a second, though, 94 1,000 between the two of them. And then Tim Dorr, Nick Ledoyen and Ivan Leary rounding out the top 10. So Will Hayden then with the victory. Matt Luff in second with Scott Fleach, Stuart Ross French and Bruce Robinson filling out the rest of the transfer spots. Richard Wootton will be kicking himself after that moment at Cascades. He ends up 6th, whilst outside the top 10. Graham Rumsey was 11th, Tom Jenkins, then Pete Lancaster, Christopher Ginn and Ashley Heath 15th from the back of the grid. Good effort from him as well. Will Hayden set the fastest lap, and there were just 2 non-finishers. In White it was a non-finisher, and Tom Jenkins actually failed to start the race.
You seem to run away with that one. It was all going well for you.
Yeah, kind of speechless to be honest. I wasn't expecting that at all. Like I said earlier, the engine wasn't performing how I wanted it to. So, yeah, I was planning for a very difficult, tough race, and instead it was the complete opposite, and it was quite lonely to be honest. And I wouldn't say easy because I still had to go, but it definitely wasn't as tough as having 10 Mazdas around you. So yeah, I'm pleased.
Well, drizzly conditions then for our final race of the day. Clive Chisnall on pole position alongside Bryn Griffiths, then Alan Hawkins and Adrian Burge, with Ollie Jenkins, the other driver, relegated from the A race. Richard Wootton is next ahead of Dave Turton and Tim Dorr. They've had entertaining days. So too has Nick Ledoyen with Ivan Leary down in 10th. Then it's Graham Rumsey and Tom Jenkins, Pete Lancaster and Christopher Ginn, with Ashley Heath and Sam Jarvis next. Then Chris Malloy and Jonathan Fieldsend, with Richard Bartlett and Elliot Han to round out the top 20. Dale Whiteman and Neil Coggan, Jack Wilmot and Ian Whitewicker next. And then towards the back of the grid, we have got Thomas Jenkins all on his own on the last row. So here we go then. We've had some fantastic Mazda MX-5 racing this weekend from both the A and the B grids. This final race though, we do have a little bit of drizzle in the air. The track is greasy, not fully wet. All of the cars of course running on grooved Avon tyres though, so they won't have to worry about tyre changes. Just a bit of a slimy surface. Away we go then for the final 20-minute race of the weekend. Who gets into Old Hall Corner first? Let's find out. It's going to be a pretty even run. Chisnall, I think, might be Bryn Griffiths or even Alan Hawkins. Alan Hawkins comes storming through the order, and he will be challenging for the lead as they went round the first turn. Lots of cars running wide on the grass out of Old Hall, but all of them will slither their way back on the road with varying degrees of speed. But at the front it is Hawkins that leads, Chisnall second, Griffiths third and Wootton fourth, so a real change around in the order. Ivan Leary there appears to have dropped down the order from what was already a reasonably lowly 10th on the grid. Speaking of 10, that's the number 10 car of Tom Mallett, the orange car going around the outside of number 53 Jonathan Fieldsend. Hawkins though has got Clive Chisnall all over him through Island Bend as they slide their way to the top part of the circuit. Chisnall going for the lead, but then finds himself having to defend his second place from Bryn Griffiths, who goes right round the outside. Now in the full wet conditions, that is the grippier side of the road, but it's not fully wet yet. It's wet enough though, with Hawkins getting sideways there, and they're all going to be right on top of each other now as they head into the Britain chicane for the first time. This is going to be a very busy run through the tightest and narrowest part of the circuit. On board with Chris Malloy here at the inside of Jonathan Fieldsend. Goes through, then gets himself alongside Tom Mallett into the right-hander. Oh, there's a hefty whack between the two of them. Looks over, selects a gear, on he goes. So no real damage done, but that was interesting. Now, lock up there for Bryn Griffiths. I did sort of suspect we might have a bit of contact on the entry lap, though not intentional, just because it's so treacherous out there. And they're all slithering around. Tim Dorr gets sideways, saves it. Oh, gets rear-ended by Graham Rumsey, though. And unfortunately, Adrian Burge has to slam on the brakes to avoid getting involved in that, and then spins, and round he goes. And was that Nick Ledoyen? I think they had to take to the grass to avoid him. And Adrian Burge, well, that was an eventful couple of corners, wasn't it? Nearly gained a place, then had to back out of it, and then spun, and nearly was collected by another car coming off the turn. So, well, very, very lively start to the race, but we, as I said, sort of expected that with these slightly greasy conditions now. Because it's not fully wet, the grip levels aren't consistent yet, and finding the quickest line is not going to be easy. Alan Hawkins, though, looks like he's going to lead the first lap from Clive Chisnall second, and third place for Dave Turton. So Dave Turton, who's been knocking on the door of a good result all day, really, after that non-finish in the first B race. He's had to really work hard to get himself back to the pointy end of the grid. Recovered to 7th in race 2, and now he's running in 3rd in the early stages of this one. Griffiths is 4th, then Wootton and Jenkins, that looks like, is it? Yeah, number 57, Tim Dorr on the inside of him, with the damage to the back of Dorr's car after that headbutt that he got from Graham Rumsey, excuse me. Ivan Leary on the grass, not the first time we've seen that this weekend. A few of them then sporting wounds after their early exchanges. And let's hope that we can have less of the contact now. Here comes Dave Turton, though, with a mega run. He's into second place up the inside of Clive Chisnall. And I think briefly considered going up the inside of Alan Hawkins there, but he does slot in line between the two of them. Chisnall's alongside, and he's going to go through. Yes, he's into second place. And can Tim Dorr go through as well? He's late on the brakes up the inside into Cascades, but Hawkins is going to turn in. No, leaves him room, and I don't think he had to there. I think Tim Dorr had actually backed out of the manoeuvre, but Hawkins didn't want to take the risk, and so left him space, and has lost 2 places now. So Chisnall goes through into second. Can he go after Dave Turton, I wonder? He's been released into clean air. He's got just over half a lap to do it. Surely he won't be able to catch the leader, but you never know. And also, what can Tim Dorr do about Chisnall? Because Chisnall is not far in front of him. There you can see the two of them together. I think Hawkins is a bit demoralised now after all of that. He's thinking a couple of laps ago, I was in the pound seat. I had a good chance to get the race lead away. I was looking a bit quicker than Dave Turton. I had a good slipstream, and now all of a sudden I'm 4th. It's MX5 racing for you, though. Never ever can you rest on your laurels, and never can you relax. If you make a mistake, there will always be at least one driver on your rear bumper waiting to capitalise, and on this occasion more than one. So down the hill then, Chisnall into second, still with this jump start penalty looming potentially. It's under investigation at the moment. And Tim Dorr in third, who could therefore be set to inherit second if things finish as they are, if he's even aware of this potential penalty. Hawkins 4th, therefore, might yet end up on the podium, but we'll wait for confirmation after the race. Into Druids, through the right-hander. Double apex right-hander that. Very quick corner, over the hill. Don't think anything's going to change now, unless Hawkins can have a go at Tim Dorr maybe for third, but it looks as though Dave Turton finally, after a day that's progressively got better as it's gone on, is going to get about as good as it can do, really. A race victory here in race 3B for Dave Turton, who comes over the start-finish line in a moment or two and sees the checkered flag. Victory for Turton, second for Chisnall, side-by-side for third between Dorr and Hawkins, and Tim Dorr hangs on by 68 one-thousandths of a second. However, we believe that there is a 10-second penalty for our second-place man on the road, Clive Chisnall, and that will drop him right down the order because the next group of cars, led by Bryn Griffiths, were not that far behind. Here's confirmation of the result. Then Turton with the victory, Dorr in second, Hawkins third, and then Griffiths, Wootton, Rumsey and Ledoyen all leapfrog the Chisnall car with that 10-second penalty. He ends up 8th with Chris Malloy 9th and Adrian Burge recovering to the top 10. That was a good drive. Tom Mallett and Ashley Heath were next, over Elliot Han, Ivan Leary and Richard Bartlett. Clive Chisnall could salvage something from that race. He got the fastest lap. Ian Whitewick was a non-starter, whilst Thomas Jenkins was disqualified for a driving standards infringement.
So that more than makes up for a bad start to the weekend, doesn't it?
Yeah, so in qualifying my suspension broke on lap 1. So I started from the back of the B in the first race, made my way up to the front, had a little crash and a puncture, started again from the back in the second B, got up to 7th, and then that race went from 7th to 1st, having a great race with these guys. And yeah, it's my first win in Mazda, so really happy with that.